Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Day in the Future. Today we discuss finance, and we're going to do it with Sergiu Neguț, an entrepreneur, angel investor, speaker and lecturer at Maastricht School of Management. He has a positive track record in business growth in different roles and across different industries, so he truly understands what takes companies into the future. Sergiu co-founded FintechOS in 2017, a global technology provider in the financial sector that is backed by some of the most reputable VCs in Europe. It is considered one of the hottest startups in fintech at the moment, and we have the great opportunity of discussing A Day in the Future with him. So today we're going to discuss everything finance, and we're going to find out how the financial sector is actually making life simpler and easier for everyone. Hi, Sergiu. Thank you very much for joining us today. Truly appreciate it. Today we are going to talk about how innovation in the financial sector is making our lives easier to enjoy through simplicity. Welcome, Sergiu.
Thank you for the invite. Very happy to be here with you. And I realized, that the title for something that talks about simplicity is so damn complicated. And I think there is something there about, technology being inside it, like deeply convoluted and complicated, but yet trying to provide a more simple interface for the world to consume or something. So let's see how this discussion goes. And again, thank you for inviting me on this podcast.
Okay, well, let's start with the first question that can take us right into the main topic. What is the simplest proof of innovation that we can see in the financial sector today, which is hugely impacting in our lives? Something that, the easiest way to think about it is what wasn't available 10 years ago and what is now that's truly changed our lives.
Let me come up with something that there is a machine in our lives that has emerged in the last 10 years. It looks like this, and we all have one in our pockets. And if we forgot it at home, that's the only reason to return, because you can't live your day without the machine. So because machine controls everything that you do and so on. But there's if you ask me, what's the simplest. I'm saying this, hey, you go in public transport and you touch this machine against some patch and you have paid for your transport. And when you're in a new city, and it doesn't work, you're like, what? Where are these guys coming from? Why is it so old? Why can't I, just pay with my phone? Do I get to buy a ticket, like a paper ticket from a desk? What is that? I mean, it's already feels so obsolete and so disturbing to your comfort, because the comfort is, once again, you take the phone out of your pocket, you touch it against something, it bips, and you go in. And I think this is basically is payment, yeah. So it's automation of payment, taking advantage of all the technology in there, the NFC and so on. And at the end of the day, this is, if you want, very, very much speaking about where the industry, the financial industry, is going into the future, because it should be something that you don't even think about. You don't have to, reach out into your pockets for some change to buy a ticket. And you just, do something that is normal, natural, one extra move that requires 0.2 calories. I made it up. I don't know how many calories, but in your process of life, which is commuting from point A to point B. And that's all. And I think this is the beauty of technology, because technology is supposed to make our lives easier without us understanding the technology, noticing the technology, or even conceiving that, hey, there is some diabolic machinery somewhere inside that is, crunching numbers and delivers some experience to you.
I think that's a great example. Like even like if you were 10 years ago going to New York and riding the metro, for example, or maybe 15 years ago, just to be sure, you would need to have some. You will need to look for where to get a ticket. You will then need to understand, okay, how much do I need to pay for the ticket, and so on. That would probably take you 30 minutes sometimes if there are some lines as well. Now you only have the phone and you just scan it and
But
you're in.
Lynn, I think this is something where we have to, hold our horses when we make international comparisons, because we kind of assume that the more developed the economy, the more eager they are to adopt technology innovation. And it
Yeah.
is not like that. I really don't know when New York has shifted to accept mobile payment, touch mobile payment on entry in the subway. But I know that definitely Bucharest had it ahead of New York, and I know that San Francisco doesn't have it today. And it's so annoying. You get to San Francisco, it's North California. It's like the center of universe in terms of technology, and you have to go to a machine and get a badge, or you have to do something very complicated to charge a virtual card that you have to put in your wallet in order to be able to use the phone when you pay for something. Completely insane from where I'm looking at the things. Yeah. So it's the beauty of technology is that it requires just a certain, if you want, level of initiative by people to make it happen. And then once it happens, it's very difficult. I mean, it feels like it's been there forever. Yeah, I remember now talking about this. I remember that for the about 5 years ago, everywhere in any city in Transylvania and in many of the cities in Romania across the board, uh, you will be able to pay for your parking via an SMS or via an app, not in Bucharest. In Bucharest, you would have to reach into your pockets for some change. The price was ridiculously low. There was always a guy attending there in the parking, freezing and having to give you the ticket and everything. And I was thinking, and even worse, you went to the shopping mall, and at the shopping mall you have to pay for the parking, and again you had to have some change in your pockets in order to be able to pay for the parking and so on. Absurd experience. Okay, but then like probably about 3 years ago, at some point things changed, and now it's unconceivable. You go to the shopping mall, even if you pay for your park, you have to pay for your parking, you pay with your phone. You end up today in a parking where you can't pay with your phone, or you can't really pay with card, with anything that is you have to pay like with bills, with it's
Yeah.
it's something that you don't think it should be like that.
Yeah, well, if you go way back in time, like because what I see money as being currency is exchange of value. And like
Right.
in the early beginnings of time, people would exchange different commodities, like a goat for some milk. I don't know, I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
They didn't have that exchange of value that made life easier to how in interaction with others you give value and you receive value. So money, I believe currency overall is that key in being able to evolve as a society faster, because the exchange of value happens faster and faster. Like this is another good example when we went from bills and from coins to digital money. Exchange of value happens faster, economy grows faster. Now, in these days and times, what do you see as the main challenges, or the things that slow innovation in making it easier and easier?
Uh, that's very good. I'm thinking, that you described the history very well. At some point, cash appeared, and cash became like the ultimate commodity, allowing free exchange between A and B and everything, and so on. So it was so good, and we still remember the movies where always there was a nice bag with $1 million in cash. which probably existed at some point, the $1 million in cash in a bag or something like that. But we are living a cashless economy. And funny enough, the cashless economy has started has started a long time ago, because basically you have the bank notes, you have the bank bills that were a statement of a deposit that may have been made into a bank. But then at some point, the bank started to multiply money. And it is not only the central banks, but the commercial banks that have a multiplier effect on the money. There needs not be a direct one-to-one relationship between the deposits that the bank has and the lendings that they can make. So I think this is something important. Then you had also the time when the Bretton Woods Convention and the currency value has kind of moved away from any stable coin like gold. I'm just using terms arbitrarily, just trying to prove a point. But so the thing is, we are shifting towards more and more cashless. Money is becoming more and more abstract. It's just digits. It's just this thing. And I think this is the flow, the natural flow of life. Now, in a funny way, cashless economy has been there for quite some time, and many of the products that we work with today, and they are quite advanced. They have been there for quite some time in a different way. My grandfather used to have a very small and semi-legal pub, in his yard, and so he was selling booze to neighbors and stuff, and he had a nice notebook with debtors, because they would not be paying on the spot. Understandably why. They would be paying when they got their salary or their pension in a few weeks or something like that. Is that a precursor to the credit card? Is that a drink now, pay later kind of
overdraft credit?
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, hey, this is not, conceptually dissimilar to you going to your favorite e-commerce site. And after you have put the stuff in your basket, you click that button with pay later. Or don't you want like 3 installments or whatever? So you think of it, it's exactly the same thing. It's deferred payment by an agreement of trust between the lender and the buyer, the receiver,
Yes. Yes.
the person getting the loan. And it's conceptually the same thing. The only thing here is that we are using the technology to establish trust among people that don't know each other. Now, if someone from a different village would have walked probably on the street into my grandfather's, he may have wanted cash up front. And it's pretty much the same thing. I'm going to to my grocery store. I'm paying up front. I'm paying before I leave the shop. If I don't pay before I leave the shop, there's a guardian over there. I don't know what's going to happen. Probably something bad. Yeah. But the thing is, normally what I'm supposed to do. I'm a reasonable citizen. Da, 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 da. So technology allows, in a very funny way, the big brother to know enough of us. If we grant them the right with GDPR and da da da, and we click all the boxes, yes, I agree, I agree, I agree, I agree. With all the clauses that we never read, by the way, because this is how things were designed. I don't know why, but we design the things in a way that, yeah, we say I agree, and then they know, the big brother knows, and they know if you're trustworthy. Okay, so technology allows us to extend trust and expand that level of trust across multiple, entities, technologies, individuals, and so on. There is a big push in the universe. Think of the whole crypto world and blockchain and da, which is like very popular nowadays, or maybe not so popular as it was as it were a year ago. But anyway, it's popular. Okay, so
Yeah.
and all that is about how do I build trust? How do I create a trust chain that is undisputable, error-free, impossible to manipulate, and all that, without relying upon a big brother that watches everything and knows everything.
Yeah.
So the distributed big brother, if you want.
Yes.
And I think this is sounds very powerful, but has 2 important caveats, which is it can be anarchic, and no serious state that is printing currency for as long as they existed as a state and has that right, historical right to issue currency, to print currency. No government is so easily renouncing that central power and accepting to yield to something that has no control.
Yes.
Has no immediate control. And I think this is a battle that will probably continue to last for quite some time. That's why I think, frankly, cryptocurrencies have been the refuge for, let's say, fraudulent wealth
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
some time, which explains why, although blockchain is an amazing technology, distributed finance is an amazing technology, and it would solve lots of problems in the universe, it's still seen with a bit of suspicious view by many, because it's something that, hey, can still be used to some extent to hide
Yeah.
wealth that shouldn't be there in those accounts, if you like. So
Yeah. And it is.
that's why I think there's always, you think of life as, what do we need to do to work as a society? What's easy
Mhm.
for us to transact and so on, and you make touch phone payments, you buy the thing and you pay later, click click click. I don't give a damn. Okay, you have even stronger technologies that are emerging out there, but you have the need of the society to stay together in an organized form that may not be the best. Like, we all tend to, it depends, the further south you go, the less you trust your government. The further north you go, the more you trust your government. But we still, in this, okay, we kind of let the governments deal with a part of our lives in a very serious way, and has been, totally accepted by everybody. And I think that makes sense, because it provides us stability, it provides us, social services and all that. So I think it makes sense, but because it makes sense, it will take some time for novel technologies that cut away a bit of the sovereignty of the state. In
Yeah.
many ways, it will take more time for those emerging fantastic technologies to take over
I agree. I
the,
agree. It's a
the
transition
incumbent.
that I agree. It's a transition that needs to navigate the necessity of regulation. Like, regulation comes as an added trust, in my opinion, in my view, to how you transact with, because now I'm thinking at the crypto space.
Mhm.
What's regulation actually providing us? In my sense, if I am an individual that doesn't know a lot about finance, doesn't know a lot about business or whatever, and I'm putting my money into a wallet in order to use it when I travel or whatever, but there isn't a higher authority or someone that has the, how can I say, power to implement through the vote of the people, to implement regulation. That's a very risky place. It's a very, like, okay, I do trust the blockchain, but it's risky at the same time, and that risk needs to be easily mitigated through technology in order to get there.
True.
That's how, yeah, that's how I see it. Like, it's the future for certain, but we'll need to navigate it carefully.
In many ways, we tend to anticipate things that aren't happening, uh, and we tend to not anticipate major shifts that would take place. And I think that's, there you have countless examples throughout history about that.
Hmm.
And there's a thing, I'm if I'm wearing my hat of a lecturer at the business school and so on, there is a colleague of mine that talks about critical thinking, and yeah, we always tend to have this availability bias. So we tend to overestimate things that we hear more often about.
Hmm.
So obviously, there's a bit of science fiction in blockchain. Yeah, it's more abstract. It takes longer time to understand how the hell are the blocks connected? What are the things there? How does it work? How can it not be replicated, stolen, whatever? So it's an intellectual process. Everything that requires an intellectual process creates a little bit of distrust. Yeah. Money seems to be more simple, although it is not. If you start thinking of how money is flowing through the economy and what does this mean, then you realize money is also a very complicated matter, especially in the post Bretton Woods kind of
Yes.
world. Now, the thing is, because we hear more often about the fancier stuff, the blockchain in particular in finance, the space flight, the nuclear fusion, whatever,
Hmm.
um, we tend to overestimate how much of this has actually altered the way we were. Look at how often you read about the space flight and how often we travel by space flight opposite to anything else, especially you and me, that
Yeah.
probably in our lives we will not step on a rocket, on a spaceship or something. Uh, so the thing is, we tend to overestimate, to give an overhype to technologies that are sound interesting and fantastic and juicy to talk about over less flamboyant technologies that are a lot more disruptive as we speak. Yeah.
Hmm.
So you look at what are the technologies that are disruptive as we speak. Yeah, there is a bit of blockchain, but you look at how much blockchain has penetrated in the real finance world, maybe not so much. You look at the same time on the all the disruptors in the payment industry, the peer-to-peer transactions, the fact that we still have an industry that is dominated by three major card issuers, and we still pay with cards. This might actually be disrupted earlier than the whole thing being subject to blockchain or to cryptocurrencies or everything. You think of the fact that every system tends to become a cloud-based system. This is a major disruptor. As we speak, major financial institutions are shifting from on-prem to private cloud to public cloud, all the way through the world and stuff. Mobile. In the last 5 years, we have shifted the way we transact with our banks, and I'm talking pretty much everyone in the universe. And it's in the last 5 years that we shifted to mobile payments and mobile apps in order to control our financial lives.
Yes. Yes. Like.
So these are things that we once they happen, we don't tend to think about it. Yeah, it's normal. And how will the universe continue to be exactly as it is now? So I'm gonna have a better app. Yeah. And then at some moment, some dude comes with a totally disruptive thing that is not fighting the system, which is important. So
Hmm.
it's important for the ecosystem to be receiving of your innovation and not block it. Okay, and then everything turns around. Yeah?
Hmm.
I'll give you an example from a completely different industry about why there is about the resistance of the system. Think of the electric cars, right? Electric cars have been there as a technology since forever, basically since the beginning of the cars.
Yep.
Uh, Pretty good electric cars were made in the 80s, and the some hairs of those cars have been the carts that are used on golf courses since forever. Yeah. Now the thing is, a commercially available car to be driven on public roads in competition with uh, fossil fuel cars is something that has been very recent. Why do you think is that? It obviously has to do with the availability of an ecosystem that takes care of that at these
Yep.
gas stations as opposed to charging stations. Yeah. So that's and the freedom that you still have a lot more freedom if you're driving fossil fuel car than if you're driving an electric car, because charging your tank takes 3 minutes versus, I don't know, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And you, for the 45 minutes, you probably don't have the density of stations, of charging stations that you would have for the other ones. So it's things, and it's about, you know, being part of an ecosystem where everybody builds up towards the same thing. Cloud, yes, everybody builds up towards the same thing. Mobile, everybody builds up against the same trend. Is there a barrier? Yes, there was a barrier at the time when we needed to all have broadband in order to be able to use our phones properly. Has the infrastructure, has a different provider for the infrastructure, being the telco industry, if you are being incentivized in order to accelerate that part of the progress and be part of this ecosystem that allows us today to use mobiles on a wide scale and use, for that instance, over mobile, over Wi-Fi, every financial service that we want. Yeah, it happens. You know? So that's where the avalanche of changes is actually pushing everybody into the future. And it's very funny because if you start comparing countries, you realize that the largest integration of e-commerce and payments and financial service and lending and okay that you see in the world is actually in China. And if compared to China, probably other developing countries, if you look at India, Brazil, what Nubank is doing is so advanced, and you look at very developed markets like Europe and the States that are kind of falling behind. Why? Because they have very powerful central agencies of the government, or government in abstract. There may be different agencies, and these are actually protecting the citizens by making sure that there is a separation between who is doing the lending, who is doing the e-commerce, and who is doing what, and so on. Is this limiting technology advance? Yes.
Yeah.
This giving an edge to the Asian innovation that has been a lot more robust and has provided a lot broader revolution in the way people are operating with finance these days. Definitely.
Certainly.
Are we going to catch up at some point? Probably.
Well, I think there's also a lot about whenever a new innovation takes like over a big industry, that innovation has a lot of return on investment to provide. And when there's a big market with a lot of return on investment, maybe disruptive innovation might cause too big of a cost of change that would affect the return on investment on the initial innovation, if it makes sense how I'm.
It makes sense. I'm a big fan of Clayton Christensen and disruptive innovation concept. So
Yeah, so
we can teach that someday,
especially
Watch
in
Catalina,
developing
follow Catalina
countries.
and myself for further advice on using disruptive technology in your life.
And
Disruptive innovation, sorry, not only disruptive technology, but
yeah, and this is what happens in my view when something truly innovative that brings a lot of added value takes over the market. Well, you need to tap on that and you need to squeeze as much as possible, because most probably there was a lot of investment made initially in developing that innovation and making it adaptable to the market. So that's why there's also a lot of, how can I say, change in who are the innovators of the world, because each one of them needs to, like, in order to constantly innovate, you need to accept the fact that you won't be able to fully benefit from what you innovated a while before. And yeah, it, you need to limit your profits in a sense. That's where I would see it. Limiting the profits of today for the profits of a continuous tomorrow.
yeah. Try to pitch that in any board of any publicly traded company that needs to report on quarterly results.
Yeah.
And that will give you a good account of why, when people talk about disruptive innovation, they always expect the disruptor to come from outside the industry and not from not from the incumbents. And the only exception is when there is an undisputed leader of the industry, and their ability to incubate and to acquire innovation is so overwhelmingly dominant against the other players in the same sector. And that's why you see that kind of approach from all the big technology firms that have become conglomerates. So you see, obviously, Google and Apple and Amazon playing with financial services to some extent, to different extent. That's why you see also, frankly, Facebook has tried that, except that it has not quite succeeded, mainly for privacy issues.
Yes. I personally find that dangerous in a sense that it might stifle innovation over the medium to long term. The fact that having control over innovation in a certain industry uh, gives you control over how you distribute it into the market. And yeah, it's a bit dangerous.
See how we are afraid, how we grant lots of rights to governments in limiting things for the evils around us, but we don't grant similar rights to companies,
Yes.
we actually expect upon governments to step in and defend us as consumers whenever there is a commercial power that is um, trying to take over our lives some way.
Yes. 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 So, um, given the fact that the podcast is a day in the future, if you were to look at a very, very far ahead day in the future, in the in a world where finance has become as simple as possible, what would be some parts of the day that would significantly change from what things look like in present times? How do you? Yeah.
I think, I believe, what we have here again is an imperfect interface, digital interface, thinking digital interface that connects me to other thinking digital interfaces of the universe. And the thinking is quite limited for the time being. They don't think for me, but they provide a very good interface with lots of things that they can compare, glance to, buy into, reject, block, and all that. Yeah. So I see this kind of interface, whether it's going to be, biologically controlled with more advanced interface than fingers, or not. I think this is something that is going to evolve. So we will have our personally trained digital interface to connect us with the rest of the universe. And we would have smart advisors that would respond automatically to our needs, controlling for that. What does this mean? It means that some entity, AI kind of thing, in that digital interface would tell me if I kind of show my interest to use something, let's say a house or a
Mm-hmm.
car,
Mm-hmm.
might advise me, hey, you may want even to hold property on this because you're using too often, you know, or you may want a long-term agreement, a long-term lease agreement. And this is automatically possible to be financed for your current state. Or if you want to do that, if you want to indulge in this kind of uh, lavish behavior, whatever you would be doing, hey, you may need to earn more money, or you can only do it for a limited period of time. But I think everything finance will become less and less visible. It will be more in the form of a personal advisor that will help you actually live your life, not make financial decisions. Financial decisions would be hidden somewhere behind a blanket of conversational or otherwise automatically approachable advice, and you will not see anymore the technology. You will not see anymore the financial institutions. There may be a bidding somewhere under the blanket between different providers, some of them being traditional financial institutions, some of them being retailers, merchants, whatever, some of them being uh, companies, digital companies that kind of own a piece of you, like social media is today. So I think there is a continuum over there of bidders against pieces of your life, and you in control of your life, but trying just to live the experience. The same difference between the mechanics of a transaction, like getting on a bus and probably in the future, not touching anything, just you're accepting
Going
that you
in it.
have
Yeah.
when have gone on a bus. Okay, so you touch this against the reader and you go in, compared to buy a ticket, wait in line, put the ticket in the thing. You have to also validate the ticket. You have not validated the ticket. Sometimes into certain systems you have to validate the exit as well, because otherwise all that thing. So it's a lot more complicated. Now it's natural. You don't just do what's useful for you. Everything else is kind of hidden behind. And I'm thinking that it should be hidden behind the fact that even more important decisions that you make in your life, more important financial decisions, like getting a mortgage, buying a car, or leasing a car, should actually fall behind the curtain of support for life while I'm living my life, planning for my life, and I'm just proceeding with it, being aware of the, let's say, balance between current and future well-being. Because basically, what is finance? Finance is about trading money between present and future.
Yep.
Investing today for benefit into the future, getting a loan today by paying more into the future. On those things. So it's actually playing with the time value of money and with the supply and demand of money across the timeline. Yeah. So what we can do with technology, and I think the civilization is prepared to do that, is to make that fully transparent and to extract all the transaction costs out of it, such that you have a much more of a perfect market. Remember microeconomics when we were talking about perfect market being one where you have infinite demand, infinite supply, and no transaction costs. Come back to the world of finance, there is always a transaction cost. And every time when that transaction cost disappears, something good happens. Something more fluid, something that helps you. So I see a world where technology is removing the largest part of the transaction costs. And I don't think of costs only as material costs. There is a time cost with transactions as well. Going to the office to buy the ticket for the bus and so on. So if you remove all that from the experiences that people live, you start living what I think analysts are calling today ambient finance, and it's just incipient. And obviously, full ambient finance is something that we can only dream of. And in the meantime, we are playing with a little bit of open finance, embedded finance, wonderful topics that create a lot of debate. And frankly, the company that I'm working with, that FintechOS, is betting aggressively on embedded finance playing a much more important role. Therefore, the need to create an open, connected, embeddable infrastructure for your company if you want to launch modern financial products that can be consumed easily by customers. So we also put a bit of leverage of our technology and our thinking into this, I'd call it, progress of mankind.
I really love how you put it. Like it's about living life simpler by making exchange of value, how can I say, not transparent, by making exchange of value happen in the background. Like it's something you don't need to think about. It's only about living your life to its fullest. Also, I see a bit of risk assessment being widely available consumer-wide in what you're referring here, because basically you can make decision with more awareness regarding how it will impact your life financially, first of all. And it's just giving power back to people on how to live their life. That's basically it. Yeah. So you were mentioning FintechOS helps banks do this transition, helps them make it easier for their clients to transit into a space where using financial services is easier, simpler, and most importantly understandable for any person, because that it's what I see that was a big friction in finance for the past 20 to 30 years, where you would look at finance as some kind of like, it's big, it's complex. How can I, a simple individual, actually understand it all?
We simplify the way financial services are provided. We simplify things by hiding away a lot of the complexities and empowering for more versatility, variability, differentiation in the final product and service that is provided to the market. And in a way, the famous Angela Strange article, "Every company will be a fintech company," we believe we are one of the first, if not the first, robust technology that can make that happen. The tool that you as a company can use to become a fintech company. Not like become a fintech company because that's not necessarily extremely appealing, but to provide products and services that are as easy to use as the products and services that have been launched by fintech. And of course, that can be done by a retailer, that can be done by a bank, that can be done by an insurance, an MGA, a broker, whatever. It's a whole continuum of companies who are interested to turn themselves and act like fintechs. And this requires a technology that is powerful, that is embeddable, that is open, that is connected, that allows for composable infrastructure to be built, decomposed, recomposed in ways that enhance the quality of the human experience for the final customer, for the individuals, for the humans out there, and for the back office users, and for the people who think in providing the next best product into the market, because they are humans as well.
Yeah, you're simplifying life by reducing the friction of transaction in finance, basically making it.
That's
Yeah,
that's a very good summary. That's a very good summary.
that's
I
wonderful.
think we're getting towards the end,
Yeah,
so
yes, yeah. It's the end. Only that's the last. This is the last question. What would be your piece of advice or your practical, uh, really short um, thing to share with our audience that they can practice each day in order to get to that day in the future in which living simpler and
I think
enjoying it?
it's I think this is the Da Vinci famous quote: "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." So what we do is we try to deliver that simplicity for everyone, and we take care of the sophistication behind. Now, what I would challenge the audience to think of is, what's that piece of simplicity that you can contribute to, such that people, irrespective if you're doing fintech, if you're doing technology of any other form, if you're doing, I don't know, social sciences, or you're an academic or something, what is that piece of simplicity that you can give back to the world, such that we can all build towards a better lives for us in the future and for the generations to come. And
Thank you,
that's all.
thank you, thank you, thank you. That's wonderful. That's what innovation is all about, making life simpler and better for everyone. Thank you, Sergio, and I really appreciate taking the time and this wonderful discussion. Can't wait to maybe discuss more with you, because it was a really insightful one for me, this episode.
I loved it as well. Thank you for inviting me, Katalin. And I'm looking forward
Okay.
to talk to your tribe of listeners again. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Have a wonderful day. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. Hope you enjoyed this episode and you now understand finance in simpler terms. Thanks to Sergio. You can follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn in order to find out who our next guests are going to be. And you can also recommend us any guest if you have someone in mind that would be really interesting to learn more about how the future will unfold. Until next time, thank you very much. And yeah, just make life simpler for everyone else.